So we'll go to our first speaker now, and it's John Shaw, who's going to clarify Labor's position on live exports.
Well, firstly, thanks very much for the opportunity to be here today. Can I commence by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we meet on and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. In May last year, the Labor Shadow Minister of Agriculture, Joel Fitzgibbon, announced that if Labor is elected, we will work with industry to end live sheep exports. A shortened Labor government will resurrect in full the position of an independent Inspector General for Animal Welfare. Labor may not be where you want them to be at this stage, but if you genuinely want to see an improvement in animal welfare standards, then we need a Labor government. Remember, Labor is the only major party committed to ending live sheep exports. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
What is Labor's position on the export of cattle and other animals? Why is it different from the position on sheep?
Well, I've got to say, this is not an area of my expertise, but I've got to say the Labor Party at this stage is not going to change the policy on cattle export. A lot of cattle export is dairy cattle. We have had some problems in the past. I've got to say, we have had some problems in the past, and back in I think 2011. And we've fixed some of those problems. Like I say, there's always challenges. There's always challenges.
Realistically, how long will it take to end live sheep exports?
Well, obviously, as I said, they'll stop the live sheep exports in the summer months, and obviously that was where the major problem arose. 5 years is a long time, but what we obviously have to realise is there's a lot of people whose livelihoods depend on farming. But at least there will be an end to it. And if a Liberal government is re-elected, there'll be no end to the disaster that we've had in the past.
Thanks, John. Thank you so much for coming and for talking to us. Next year, the International Maritime Organisation will be bringing in new regulations to do with pollution from old ships. So most, if not all, of the live export ships that come here, hopefully, will not be able to keep trading. For them to keep trading, they will have to fit new engines or fit what they call very expensive scrubbers to clean their dirty fuel, or they'll just have to go to scrap. Now, most of them are 30 to 40 years old, so they absolutely aren't worth spending big money on. So I think that's a bit of good news on the horizon. Green Senator Nick McKim.
Thanks, Suzanne. Hello, everyone. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land that we gathered on today, the Muwinina people, to pay respects to their ongoing cultures and traditions, and to acknowledge that this land was never ceded. Animal cruelty is never okay. It is never okay. And we've seen some of the most shocking footage of live exports, and I want to be really clear. There is no justification for only acting on live sheep exports and failing to act on live cattle exports. All live exports are wrong, and the Greens oppose all live exports. All live exports. We want to see them end immediately because there is no justification for continuing this barbaric and inhumane and bloody trade. I've been in politics a while, and I can tell you one thing. The language that the major parties listen to is the language of votes. It's the language of votes. So vote in the House of Representatives and in the Senate for parties that reflect your values, for parties that will give a voice to voiceless animals, to parties that will oppose the barbaric inhumanity of live exports, and parties that will stand up and take the action that you all want to see, which is an end to the live export trade. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce now Andrew Wilkie, who is another person that this will not be happening without Andrew.
Thanks you, Suzanne. And isn't Senator Nick McKim so right? It is barbaric. It is cruel. It must be ended immediately. And I'll add a footnote to what Nick said, and those responsible for the cruelty should go to jail. You know, wouldn't it be nice that at the election 3 years ago and the rallies we had then, wouldn't it be great if they were the last rallies? But here we are 3 years later, another federal election, and since the last election, how many more exposés have there been of the systemic cruelty in the live animal export industry? Australian dairy cows dying, Australian dairy cows suffering, all on the watch of the current federal, national Liberal government. And then you go back a little bit before that, the Awasi Express. Words that are now etched into our consciousness. The Awasi Express, that hell ship on which thousands of Australian sheep were literally cooked alive, where thousands died. Who can forget those images on the TV of lambs illegally born on that vessel, who drowned in the filth and the mud, and the animals that died of dehydration and heat stress. The carcasses thrown over the side to feed the sharks. What on earth does this country think it's doing that in 2019 a series of governments, Liberal, National and Labor, a series of governments think this has been okay? There is so much more to do. For a start, we have to hold a new Labor government to their promise, and we have to pressure them to go further and shut the sheep trade down more quickly, and not for Joel Fitzgibbon to buckle to the pressure of the sheep export industry, which will cry foul and demand 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. When you look at the pigs and the chickens and the thoroughbred horses and the trots and the dogs and the puppies and the kittens, you realise this country has an animal welfare crisis. And no party, no major party, neither the Liberal Party nor the Labor Party are genuinely committed to addressing that crisis. Please use your vote wisely. Vote for people who will ban live animal exports. Vote for people who will push to throw the people in jail who are being cruel to our animals.
She is really a legend, and she should be Australian of the Year. Please welcome Lynn White, everyone.
Well, this has been quite the journey, hasn't it? You know, I never thought when I left policing that my training protecting and representing victims and investigating criminals would remain so relevant and needed. Your heart-fueled advocacy on behalf of these animals over many, many years now has been nothing short of magnificent. It's because of you that politicians have received more correspondence calling for an end to the live trade than any other issue in Australia. It's because of you, after that horrific vision aired on the Awasi Express last year, it's because of your outrage that last year, for the first time in the trade's 50-year history, the sheep trade came to a grinding halt over a period of months, saving nearly 1 million animals from the cruelty of being exported. You know, it's the role of governments to pass laws to govern human behaviour when we've shown ourselves incapable of governing our own. For 20 years as a police officer, I upheld laws that recognised the need to protect the vulnerable from the darker sides of human nature. And we want political leadership that recognises that when kindness, compassion and what is just are the centrepieces of political and public policy, then all of us profit, all of us benefit, rather than just a few. So for now, please accept my heartfelt gratitude to you all for your magnificent advocacy on behalf of the live exported animals and millions of the victims of this trade. But beyond that, I also wanted to thank you all for showing the way and leading the way to that kinder world. Let's vote for a kinder world on May 18th. Let's vote to end live export. Thank you so much.
Can we have another round of applause for all the speakers, please?